I have 60 settlers in a single settlement in Fallout 4, and I achieved this without any mods, and in this video I am going to go through in detail exactly how I did this. Hi, I'm Mo and I'm trapped in Fallout. Before I show you the exact steps and methods I used to get 60 settlers in a single settlement, we need to understand what the maximum settlement cap is on a single settlement. Thankfully, the math is actually pretty easy. Each settlement has a base cap of 10 plus the number of points you have in your charisma special stat. So if you have a charisma of 5, then that means each of your settlement can have up to a maximum of 15 settlers. If you increase your charisma to say something like 8, then each of your settlement can now have up to 18 settlers. So essentially, the trick to getting as many settlers as possible is to increase your charisma as much as possible. And therefore, I will show you how I managed to increase my charisma all the way up to 50 in this video. So, in order to maximize our charisma as much as we can, we will first need to use the special book scrap glitch that you can get access to as soon as you leave Vault 111. And this is known as I said, the scrapping the special book glitch. Now this is a glitch that I first covered back in 2022, so it's been a couple of years, but we will need to repeat that glitch in order to start off our charisma with a much higher base stat. Now ideally you want to do this at the beginning of the game, but if you're not at the beginning of the game, then that's not too much of an issue. As long as you have access to the special book, you can do this glitch. Now I happen to be playing a new game, so I will first go into my house and I will pick up the special book that should be right over here. Now when you pick it up for the first time, you will be asked to select one of your special stats, and when selecting them it will increase them by 1 point. So I will select charisma. Now if I look at my charisma is currently set to 4. So let's make a mental note of that number. Now what we need to do is we need to go into a armor, or rather a weapon workbench, and we need to make sure that we can modify any weapon and craft any modification for that weapon. So I can craft, for instance, for this 10mm pistol, I can craft a light frame receiver. You need to be able to craft any modification on any weapon. Next, what you want to do, as you probably have already noticed, I don't happen to be wearing anything, and that is because you want to have an empty inventory. You really only want 2 things in your inventory. You just want the weapon and you want the special book. Now, if you happen to be playing a game where you happen to have, say, quest items that you cannot remove, you can still do this glitch, but you will need to play around with the naming of the weapon, which is something I'm going to talk about right now. So on the assumption you have the least number of items in your inventory, what you need to do now is go back to your weapon workbench and you will need to rename your weapon to the first letter of your special book. So if we look at our special book, in this case the name of our special book starts with the letter Y. Now if you happen to be playing in a different language, then chances are the name of your book might start with a different letter. Whatever the case is, you want to take that first letter and make a mental note of that. So go back into your weapons bench and rename your weapon to the first letter of your special book, making note to rename it with the lowercase version of that letter. And in my game, because my book is called Your Special, which starts with the letter Y, I have renamed my weapon to the letter Y. Now, if you happen to have, say, other quest items, then you don't have to name your weapon Y. You could use the first couple of letters. So in this case, I could have instead renamed my weapon to something like YO or YOU. You want to take the first few letters of your special book and rename your weapon to that if you have quest items. If you don't have any quest items, using the first letter should be fine. Now exit the weapon workbench, and now what you want to do is perform a quick save. Now you might have noticed that I quick saved, and that is because right now I'm actually playing on a non-survival mode. In order to get the highest charisma possible, we need to be playing on a non-survival mode, and we will talk about that in a moment also. But again, just be note that we will at some point changing our game to survival, but for the moment it's a non-survival game. Now go back into your weapons workbench, and this is where we're going to use the first step of the scrap glitch. What you want to do is press the scrap and modify button on this weapon at exactly the same time, and if you do it right, you should see this screen. Right now we are seeing the scrap menu overlaid behind, or rather in front of, the weapon modification menu. You are basically doing both things at the same time. If you now press the A button and scrap your weapon, you should see the special book appear on your screen like this. And this basically means that the game is now treating the special book as a weapon modification for your weapon. Now this next step is also pretty important. Right now what you want to do is press the right button on your D-pad and then apply any one of the weapon modifications that you checked earlier on that you can apply. So in this case, I'm going to apply the light frame receiver, and with this, just exit the entire weapon modification menu. Now if you look in your inventory, you will notice that the weapon has disappeared and the only thing left is the special book. Now what we will do is drop the special book on the floor and go into settlement build mode, and if you hover over the book, you will notice that you can now scrap the special book. What we've just done now is performed the scrap special book glitch. So this is the same glitch that I covered back in 2022. We have converted the special book into a scrappable object. If we tried to scrap this book at the very beginning when we first picked it up from our house, we would not have been able to scrap it because the special book cannot be scrapped. But by following these steps, you can now scrap this book. So let's try to scrap this book. What we're going to do now is perform another glitch known as the resource duplication glitch. This glitch will basically scrap the book and create another copy of it and then store it in our workshop right over here. So if I now pick up the book, notice I don't get that menu that I got when I picked it up for the first time inside that house. And the reason I didn't get it now is because this book has already been activated. So let's take the book back out, or rather it's in my inventory. Let's drop it again. We will now perform what I said is called the resource duplication glitch. To perform this glitch, what you need to do is highlight the book in settlement mode, and you want to press the scrap button and then let go of the scrap button and then press and hold down the store button. And if you do that right, you should have the store button, or the store menu, and the scrap menu both visible at the same time. So again, what you want to do is press the scrap button and then let go of the scrap button and then press and hold down the store button, and you need to do this as quickly as you can, within like a fraction of a second if possible. So if you do it right, you should see something like this. So right now I am still holding down the store button, but I have the option to scrap this book. But if you have a look behind the scrap menu, I also have the option to store it. So as said, I am still holding down the store button. I'm now going to press the scrap button. At this point I am still holding down the store button, and now I'm going to select the yes option, and now I'm going to let go of the store button. So at this point what has happened is we've scrapped the book and stored a copy of it in the workshop. So exit settlement mode and go back into your workshop, grab the book, and now drop it on the floor. And this time when you pick it up, you will be able to reselect another one of your special stats. So if you remember, our charisma was set to 4, so we will set charisma again. If we have a look, our charisma has now been bumped up to 5. So what we want to do is repeat this process until our charisma gets set to 10. So I'm going to do this one more time just to go through the loop again. So we drop the book, we go into settlement mode, we perform the resource duplication glitch, scrap it, store it, and then go back into the workshop, grab the book, drop it on the floor, pick it back up, and then select charisma again. So let's do this until we set our charisma to 10. Now, for the sake of this video, my goal is to get my charisma as high as I can, but you can do this with all of your special stats. So feel free to increase all of your special stats if you want, but again, as said, I'm only going to focus on charisma. So I'll see you in a moment once I've got my charisma all the way up to 10. I have now performed the glitch enough times where I've got my charisma up to 10 now. With that, let's do this one more time, because this is now going to form the next step of this entire process. Again, I've dropped the book on the floor and I am now going to scrap it and store it at the same time using the resource duplication glitch. And again, going to grab it from the workshop, drop it on the floor, And now when I grab it, notice that the charisma option is not visible anymore. And that is because once you have any one of your special stats set to 10, that option doesn't appear in the coding of this book. Basically, the special book does not allow you to increase any special stat over the threshold value of 10. So for now, I'm just going to select strength. Now, in order to further increase our charisma to a much higher number, this is where we will now need to jump into survival mode. So what you want to do is go into survival mode by simply changing your settings. Now, before we do this, this is where perhaps you may want to go and collect a few more things in the game. So at this point, I would suggest you go and you collect some items, some chems that I will mention in this video, some items that will help you to stay hydrated, and items that will help you to fill your tummy with food because you will become very hungry. Once you've collected such items, then go and select the survival mode because that will become important. Again, I will show why exactly. So I'm going to assume you've done that, and I'm just going to straight change the game to survival mode. I have now changed the game to survival mode. So again, just to confirm, if I go into settings, the game is now in survival mode. And I also have a few more things at my disposal to again bump up my charisma as much as I possibly can. The first thing I'm going to do is actually try to get addicted to two very specific chems. And those chems are Day Tripper and Mentat. In my case, I happen to have great Mentats, but I can use any form of Mentats. What you want to do is take some Day Tripper up until you become addicted to it. So I've taken 1, 2, and again, I'm just going to continue to take them until I become addicted. So right there, you can see I've become addicted. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but use grape Mentats instead. And again, I'm going to take them up until the point I become addicted to grape Mentats. And there I've become addicted to Mentats. If I now go into my special, notice that my charisma is super high. Now this is a good thing, obviously, but that's not what I want. What I want is the ability to increase my base charisma, but I'm currently getting a boost from all the Mentats and all the Day Trippers that I've just basically taken. And I don't really want that. I want this to be actually reduced, and that is reduced in the background due to the addiction. So what we're going to do now is actually go to sleep. Now before we do that, really quickly, because I've taken the Day Tripper and the Great Mentats, these effects of the charisma boost will basically last me a temporary amount of time. The moment I go to sleep and wake up, the effects should basically go away, and then I will be left with just the addiction. So what you want to do now is actually go to sleep for 6 in-game days straight, or ideally, if you can manage, about 7 or 8 instead. And when we do that, we will actually become both very hungry, very thirsty, probably also catch a disease in the process. So we need to do this. The reason why we're going to do this is actually to incur some very bad and harsh negative tricks, and we'll look at that in detail. So what I'm going to do is just skip ahead to the video, but for the moment I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sleep for between 6 to 8 in-game days. So I'll see you in just a moment. I have just slept for 7 in-game days straight. So I did say between 6 and 7. I decided to go with 7. And if I have a look at my special stats now, my charisma is currently set to -3. So that isn't -3 as in 0 and then -1, -2, -3. This -3 simply means that my charisma is some level, but it's currently set to a 3, which is basically another way of saying it's gone down from some level. If I go back to my status and have a look at my effects, I can see that I am severely dehydrated, I am very hungry, my addictions have remained, so they haven't been removed as a result of sleeping for this amount of time. And as a result, as a full sum result, I am now effectively taking a really big hit on charisma. Now, what we're going to do is go back to the special book glitch and repeat that one more time, and we will sort of see why. So again, I still have my special book in my inventory. Again, I'm going to drop it, and again I'm going to duplicate it and grab it from the workshop, drop it on the floor, pick it up, and if you remember last time, we didn't get the option to increase our charisma because our charisma was at 10. Now if you happen to see, our strength just happens to be at 10. Our charisma at the moment is set to 3. If we pick the book up, notice that we cannot increase strength because strength is currently set to 10, whereas charisma is not, even though charisma actually has a value of 10. So we will select the charisma option. And now if we go back to our special stats, notice this has changed from a 3 to a 4. What you want to do is repeat this as many times as you're able to until the charisma option doesn't appear anymore when you perform the special duplication glitch on the book. So again, we're going to do this just one more time, and you want to repeat this as many times as you're able to until the charisma option doesn't appear anymore. Now, the charisma option will probably disappear when you get to about a value of 8. So you will not be able to take a charisma all the way up to 10, but you will be able to take it up to a relatively good number anyway. So again, I'll see you in a moment, but I'm going to repeat this up until the point where I cannot increase my charisma anymore. I now have my charisma currently set to -8. And again, I still have the special book. So I'm going to do this one more time. Again, just repeating this really quickly. And now if I try to increase my charisma one more time, notice that I cannot do that anymore. And that is because this glitch caps out when your charisma is set to about -10. So I'm just going to select anything else for now. Now, if we have a look at our base charisma, it is currently set to -8, but we are taking a really big hit because we are really hungry, we are really dehydrated, we are addicted. So what you want to do now is have some addictol to remove any addictions, take some antibiotics to remove any diseases, and now what you want to do is slowly start drinking water up until the point where you're not thirsty anymore. So I think if I drink about 7 or 8, that should be enough. So I'm going to keep on drinking up until the point where I am not thirsty anymore. And I think that's done it. So I'm now hydrated, and I'm going to repeat the same thing by eating some food. So again, I'm going to keep eating food. I'm just going to go down to 12. I'm just going to assume it's the same amount roughly. And I'm hoping that I should not be hungry anymore. There you go, I'm properly fed. If I now go back into my stats, notice that all the negative traits from addictions to disease to hunger and thirst is all been removed. And if I look at my special, it is now currently sitting at 15. So again, you could have taken a little bit more time and did this with basically every single other stats. We're only focusing on charisma, but at the moment, my base charisma is now 15. We are now going to try and bump this up even further. So one of the first things we can do is go into apparel, and you can actually try and find some unyielding armor pieces, 5 to be exact, 2 for the arms, 2 for the legs, and 1 for the chest. And what they do is they increase all of your special stats by +3 anytime your health drops below 25%. So we're just going to go and equip these for now. And if we look at our charisma now, then our charisma will jump up to 30 once our health drops below 25%. But we'll hold on to that for the moment. Something else we can do is also equip a Dapper Gent hat, which will increase our charisma by 2. So let's do that. So notice our charisma has gone up by 2. And now we can also equip a black rimmed glasses that increases our charisma by 1. So notice at 18. And we can also equip a fancy plate suit and tie, which has increased our charisma up to 20. Now, before we look at the next thing, let's try and actually take our HP down to less than 25%. So just give me a moment, and I'm going to try and take some damage to my health to help me sort of demo that point. So what I'm going to do is quickly build something that will allow me to take a little bit of damage. So I'll see you in a moment. So as you can see, my HP is now down to 30, which is less than 25% of 199. And as a result, with the exception of endurance, every other stat has gone up by 15. More importantly, my charisma has jumped from 20 to 35. We can even further increase this if we make a couple of changes. Given that our charisma is now well over 10, i.e. our base charisma is something like 15, we can put 2 points in Party Boy, and what this will do is anytime you consume any alcohol, it will double the effect of the alcohol. So if we now drink some beer, what this will do is further increase our charisma by 2. So if we have a look, we have now jumped from 35 to 37. We can also take some grape Mentas that will further increase our charisma by 5. So if we have a look, we've now jumped from 37 to 42. Next, let's take a Day Tripper to increase our charisma again by 3. So now we've jumped from 42 to 45. And now if we take an Excel, that should also increase our charisma by another 2, taking our charisma from 45 to 47. And lastly, if we take one more, the Smooth Operator, that should increase our charisma by another 3. And if we have a look now, that has now bumped our charisma all the way up to 50. There are probably a couple of more things you can do, especially if you happen to have some of the special donuts from the creation content, which I'm not going to go into too much because that is behind a paid service. But you can potentially increase your charisma by a couple of more points here and there, but you should be able to get your charisma up to around 50 or close enough to it. Usually you should be able to get anywhere between 45 to 50. And now when you think about it, given that your base charisma is 50, and given that I said at the very beginning of this video that the default value for any settlement is your charisma plus 10, you should now be able to recruit up to 60 settlers in any given settlement. And this is effectively how you can use multiple in-game glitches and exploits in Fallout 4 to have pretty much 60 settlers in a settlement without the use of any mods. In this video, I went through how to increase your charisma as much as possible to get as many settlers as possible into a single settlement, and as a result I showed you a number of glitches, including the scrapbook glitch as well as the resource duplication glitch. But I also made reference to one particular thing and did not show you too much about it, and that is the 5 legendary armor pieces that I was wearing, which had the unyielding effect. If you want to be able to farm for specific armor or weapon using specific legendary effects, then click on the video you see on the screen now. Click on the video you see on the screen now and I will show you exactly how you can farm for the exact armor, exact weapon and exact legendary effect you want in Fallout 4.